Walmart Plus. It's Walmart plus free delivery, which saves members time plus money. Yep. Plus an included Paramount Plus subscription to stream movies, shows, sports, and that can't-miss documentary. Plus Burger King savings. That's right. Members get 25% off Burger King digital orders every day of the week. Walmart Plus. It's Walmart Plus. Become a member at walmartplus.com. $35 order minimum. Paramount Plus Essential Plan only. Separate registration required. Valid at participating U.S. VKs in the BK app or BK.com for members only. 25% off one time per calendar day. Terms apply. See Walmart Plus terms and conditions.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Welcome to our paranormal afterlife. This is episode 160 of Paranormal Stories. This episode I'm reading from Dr. Leo Ruickbie's prize-winning essay, The Ghost in the Time Machine, The Survival of Human Consciousness After Permanent Bodily Death. When I have guests on my podcasts, I read their books to work out questions for the episodes. When reading these books, I always find such amazing information that never makes it into the podcast, and here I get a chance to give you a peek into the book. I've put a link to the book in the show notes, and I did seek permission to record this extract, and the author kindly said yes. So I'm going to read from a part of the book that's titled Ghosts Still in the Past, and this is what Leo has written. 18-year-old plumber's apprentice, Harry Martindale, was in the cellars of the Treasurer's House, an historic house in York, UK, working on the central heating system, when he heard the distant blaring of a note, in his words. Perched on a ladder, Martindale continued his work as the sound grew louder. Looking down, he saw a figure wearing a plumed helmet and holding a trumpet-like instrument come through the wall, followed by a horse and rider, and a column of Roman soldiers. Martindale fell off his ladder with fright and watched as about 20 soldiers marched across the cellar. Martindale described the scene. They were coming out of the wall. The wall didn't exist as far as they were concerned. The only other Roman soldier I'd seen prior to this is what we call, or I call, the Charlton Heston type, riding a beautiful horse, very smart. These were the complete opposite. The first thing that struck me was how small they were. They were very small indeed. Another remarkable thing when they first came out of the wall, I couldn't see them from the knees down until they came to where the Roman road had been excavated. Then I could see them from their sandals up. I wouldn't say they were all that smart, although they did all have the same uniform on. On top of the material were strands of leather all the way round, and the only thing I can say they had on was a green-coloured skirt. All of them carried a short sword on the right-hand side, the side nearest to me, and it was a short sword like an oversized dagger. One was carrying a long, like a lance affair, and one of the soldiers I saw walking out of the wall carried a shield. Now in the centre of the shield it was like a raised bulb. As the soldier passed through the opposite wall, Martindale made his escape. He was found by the museum's curator, who said, "By the look of you, you've seen the Roman soldiers." Martindale went home and called his doctor, telling him what he had seen, and was signed off work with shock. Years later, when Martindale gave his first interview about the incident, he could not remember when it had taken place, but the doctor was able to provide the date from Martindale's medical records. When asked, "Are there such things as ghosts?" Martindale's unequivocal answer was yes. Martindale's description seemed in complete contrast to his Hollywood-level understanding of the Roman military. In particular, he described the use of a round shield. We think of the legions equipped with large rectangular scutum. However, the original infantry shield was the round clipius, later being replaced by the defensively superior scutum, only to come back into use during the crisis of the 3rd century. It had a distinctive projection in the centre. After the Roman conquest of Britain in the 1st century AD, Roman auxiliaries, usually known as raised troops, continued to use the clipius. In the 2nd century AD, there were over 25,000 auxiliaries deployed in the Roman province of Britannia. According to the National Trust, which now owns the property, later research showed that the 6th Legion was withdrawn from York during the 4th century AD and replaced by soldiers armed with rounded shields, presumably auxiliaries. And on to the next section. This one's called Ghosts of the Future, Over the Bridge of Time. In December 1925, the journalist Irene Corbally-Kuhn, 1898 to 1995, was walking down Michigan Boulevard, now Michigan Avenue, in Chicago. Just weeks before, the 27-year-old had been in Shanghai working with her husband Bert Kuhn for the China Press. But after Sikh police had fired on a Chinese student protest, killing 6, anti-foreign feeling was running high. There were strikes and riots as what became known as the May 13th movement led to a state of martial law. The Kuhns were in immediate danger. Both hard-nosed journalists, they might have stayed, but with a 2-year-old daughter to look after, it was decided that Irene should return to the USA with their child. Bert would remain. He was also secretly working for US naval intelligence. Chicago in 1925 was mobster Al Capone's city, but a walk down Michigan Boulevard was still a safer bet than Shanghai. What happened next stopped Kuhn in her tracks. She said, "Suddenly, and without warning, sky, boulevard, people, lake, everything vanished, wiping from my vision as completely and quickly as if I'd been struck blind. Before me, as on a motion picture screen in a dark theatre, unrolled a strip of green grass within a fence of iron palings. 3 young trees in spring verdure stood at one side. Beyond the trees and the fence, in the far distance, factory smokestacks trailed sooty plumes across the sky. Across from the trees stood a small circle of people, men and women, a mere handful in black clothes, and coming to a halt on a gravelled road by the grass was a limousine from which alighted 2 men who turned to offer their hands to a woman in black emerging now from the car. The woman was I. I watched myself being escorted against my will to the group which now parted to receive me. At last I was among the others, and looked at the small hole cut in the grass, a hole not more than 2 feet square. There was a small box which someone, bending over now, was placing in the earth with infinite tenderness. A box so small and light that I could hold it in my hand and hardly feel it. What was I doing here? Where was I? Why was I letting someone put this box in the ground? This little box which held something very precious to me. I couldn't speak or move. These people, who were they to me? Then I recognized only the faces of my husband's family, tear-stained and sad. The silence screamed and tore at me. I looked about. All the clan were there. Only he was missing. Then I knew what was in the box, and I crumpled on the grass without a sound. The vision lifted as suddenly as it appeared, and Kuhn found herself clutching a lamppost for support. She later brushed off the incident as an overactive imagination, triggered by her loneliness in the city. Things had settled down in Shanghai, so she planned to return, boarding the Empress of Canada at Vancouver in February. On board she received a telegram. "Husband dangerously ill, best not sail." The next telegram brought worse news. Her husband had died on February 21st, 1926 from unknown causes. The funeral was on May 30th. Kuhn travelled by limousine with her 2 brothers-in-law to Rose Hill Cemetery. She said, I had never seen it before. When they arrived, she said, "The men got out first and waited to help me. I put my foot on the ground and something held me back. For a second I couldn't raise my eyes because I knew what I would see. At last I looked. There was the spring grass underfoot. There were the 3 young trees in fresh leaf. There was the fence of iron palings, and the smokestacks of the city's industries far beyond in the distance. Bert's brothers urged me forward gently. I saw the ring of black-clad mourners over to one side, waiting. I stopped. "You didn't have to open a full grave, did you?" I asked. "How do you know?" asked Paul with astonishment. "There's just a little square hole big enough to take the box with Bert's ashes, isn't there?" I pressed on. Paul's face was white beneath his natural tan. "Yes, that's right. They said it would be foolish to open a full grave for a small box full of ashes. But how did you know?" he persisted. I didn't answer. I was thinking of that December day on Michigan Boulevard when I had seen into the future over the bridge of time. Today I was reading from Leo Ruickbie's prize-winning essay, The Ghost in the Time Machine, The Survival of Human Consciousness After Permanent Bodily Death. And this essay has been published as a book, and there is info and a link in the show notes. A great way to support the podcast is to sign up on Patreon. On our Paranormal or Afterlife Patreon, when you sign up for $6 a month, you get an extended episode every week. And for $3 a month, you get an extended episode every month. If you want to give the extended episodes a try, there is a 7-day free trial. Just go to patreon.com, Our Paranormal Afterlife, or click on the button on my homepage, pastliveshypnosis.co.uk. And if you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review and be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or via your favourite podcast app to make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes. And thanks for listening.